So what you're seeing here is an Amish woman wearing what appears to be a ring. Now, if you watched my previous video on the Amish and jewelry, you'll know that generally they do not wear jewelry. They see jewelry as a form of vanity or pride. That's why they don't wear wedding rings and other types of jewelry. But in that video, I did tell you about one exception in the case of some Amish groups, which might wear, for example, copper rings for health purposes. Now, to be honest, I had never seen this in person. I was actually happy to see these photos that were sent in by Jim Halverson. And this first one was taken at an auction in Clare, Michigan. You can see here clearly the woman is wearing what appears to be a ring. And this is not the only example. He had another photo also taken at an event in the same community of another woman wearing what appears to be a ring. And, I wasn't sure about these when I first saw them. Maybe this woman might have part of the bag looped through her fingers. The first woman maybe has part of her prayer covering strings looped around her fingers. But at least in the case of the second one, Jim says that it was definitely a ring and that he observed it several times during the event. In the first example, I would tend to think that's a ring as well, because the one string would be shorter than the other one. So I thought these photos were a really neat illustration of what I was talking about in that video of Amish women wearing rings. Now, additionally, I got another interesting email from Jim just recently. He'd been visiting a Plain Trooper Amish community. These are among the most conservative of all Amish. After the visit, he wrote me that after we left, my wife said one of the girls, probably in her 20s, was wearing a ring. I didn't even notice that. But yesterday, I did notice one on the daughter-in-law I was talking to. She was probably in her 30s. I asked about the ring, and she said they sometimes wear rings. It's not a wedding ring or, and this is the interesting part, one worn for health reasons. Jim continues, it appears that some of the Trooper women in the area wear rings for no particular reason. So this was and wasn't surprising to me. It was in that I hadn't seen examples of Amish women allegedly wearing rings, not for health purposes, because it's uncommon to begin with. It wasn't surprising to me when you consider that there are over 600 different Amish communities, many different types of Amish groups, and cultural differences across those groups. One Amish friend of mine always says, be careful about saying the Amish always and the Amish never, because there are often little exceptions like this. I got a follow-up comment as well from a reader on my website who actually comes from a Trooper Amish background. And he added some additional context in that it's not only the Amish women wearing the rings. A man named Andy Weaver, he writes that, I grew up in a Trooper Amish setting. Copper rings amongst the youth were very common in our circles. We did not view finger rings, as we called them, as jewelry, even though that is the real reason we wore them. So that was interesting. I remember us boys polishing our rings during church services by rubbing them against our rubber shoe soles. Some families didn't allow them, but I don't remember the issue ever being a controversial one. Additionally, this is interesting because you sometimes think that the most conservative Amish groups, which the Trooper are basically the most conservative group, would be least likely to do things against sort of the Amish stereotype or the typical Amish portrayal. But in some cases, you'll find these exceptions even or especially in these plainer communities. Another example would be the use of tobacco, which tends to be seen more often in the plainest communities. So, very interesting. This is not something you can expect to see, widespread. Just another example illustrating the variety of practices across the Amish. Hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for listening. If you like this video, hit the like button. See you next time.